Hello, hi everybody. People are starting to come in now. Excellent. Hi Nisa, Sylvia, good to see you. Here we go. Lots of people now registering now that I've clicked yes, come on in. Can everybody hear me okay? Hi Martin, good to see that you're on here. Hi Beth, Becky. Goodness me, Ian, John T, lovely. Really nice to see you. Anika, good to see you as well. So although I can't physically see anybody, of course, I see everybody's names coming in, which is fantastic. Morning, Michael. Excellent, brilliant. I love it when Michael does this. He started using the chat, which actually then prompts me to say, please do use the chat. There's corporate buyers on here, there's venues on here, there's agencies on here, there's consultants on here, there's freelancers on here, all obviously in the industry, in the mice industry. So please do use the chat to say hello. I know a lot of venues like to do that, to say hello. Then of course you can by all means swap each other's details on the chat or private messaging or whatever. I don't really see much of that as it's going on because I'm busy talking. So let's crack on. Welcome to Park Lane Events webinar for September. Feel free to take pictures because I go through quite quickly, so sometimes I'll say take a quick picture of this because I'm going to move on quickly. This does get sent on to you afterwards as well, irrelevant of if you can actually attend or not. So if in future you want to attend them but can't make it on the day, then I do send it on to everybody as long as they have registered. I've had nearly 100, over 100 that have signed up on this one as well, and there's a lot that want it sent afterwards. So that is great. People do that, and that's absolutely fine. Obviously goes up on YouTube and it goes up on my website as well, so nice and accessible for everybody. So I am going to start sharing the screen. That should be it there. So can people see the screen there? It should say Park Lane Events there, which is the presentation. If anybody can put on the chat yes that they can see it, brilliant, thumbs up. Yeah, oh great, thanks Rachel. Rachel's been doing this from the start. Thanks Becky, you've raised your hand. Brilliant. I'll start. So as I mentioned, we're here, you're here from I'm here from Park Lane Events. The reasons that you're here is to obviously keep updated, and this month's one is about, again, updating on the latest availability, planning for this time of year, including Christmas parties, updating on the next quarter, looking ahead at 2024, industry exhibitions. Obviously that's always changing, sometimes there's new ones coming in. I'm actually doing some educational sessions at the Birmingham CHS Show, so that's one I'm definitely going to be at, and obviously looking at latest trends, hotels visited that I've gone to see, and new hotel openings, which there's quite a lot of. So a lot to run through today. So as I mentioned, so everybody's here who is either a corporate venue, corporate event buyer that I venue find for, or you might just do your own venue finding, or you go through another agency, or you might be working for a venue or a group or consortium or be consultant or a DMC, or you're an agent or freelancer and part of my network. So welcome. But as what has carried us through since I started these in COVID is the fact that we're all here so that then we can try and keep up to date with the fast changing. And what's nice is that it's so much more positive now than it used to be. Having said that, just going on the last with inquiries, there are still a couple of venues now that are still having this on their automatic reply. I put an inquiry through and it will say, due to the unprecedented high volume of inquiries we're receiving at the moment, there may be a small delay in our response. However, this is pretty much a thing of the past now, which is really good. So if I do receive this, in some respects it's good because I'm like, great, it's got to the right email address, it's all fine, it had someone who's going to look at it at some point. But I obviously won't chase that one because I know that they're busy, they'll get to it when they can, or obviously that's when I pick the phone and go, right, I need a response straight away. So it's still good to do that if venues are in that situation, but pretty much hardly any are now, which is really good. Things that we have had to be aware of are the train strikes plus cheats to strikes, if that affects some people as well, which it has been over the last few months. Hopefully all of this is not, we're not having to worry about this so much looking forwards, or we have more contingency plans. And certainly with terms and conditions, it's important to have this or have a policy. It's really good if a venue actually has a policy for train strikes now. So I did have that in July. Client had to move their event. and they said we do have a train strike or a strike policy basically, and it was that you could move it by a month, otherwise it incurred the cancellation charges. So there's still flexibility of not straight away cancelling with cancellation charges, but it is good to have these little one-liners, if you like, that say this is what we're saying to everybody, so everybody's speaking from the same hymn sheet, because obviously everyone's affected. As a corporate buyer, being able to think about this ahead, just in case, what is the contingency plan? So obviously having good access anyway, that's just a given. Consider hotel bedrooms nearby or at the venue if they have them, and what are their rates, just see what they're keep an eye on availability, but also perhaps allow an extra hour in the morning, so have a breakfast element, so that you've got welcome more than the normal welcome pastries, but your yogurts, your muesli, bacon rolls, to allow extra time for people to get there, and hopefully encourage people to get there as well, nice and early, so they can network at the same time. One thing I always encourage people to do is really look at your minimum numbers when you're contracting venues. I know everybody's used to this anyway. Certainly when I'm catching up, and minimum numbers is what the client is, the minimum that, really what they're looking at, the minimum numbers there, but actually can the meeting room have the maximum numbers that they're hoping to get? Because the minimum and maximum is always a difficult moving beast all the time, of course. So contracting on minimum numbers, and at least then everybody knows where they are, everyone knows that's the minimum that they're going to get and is comfortable in that room, but at least there's space for the maximum numbers there as well. And also for people just to consider what elements are hybrids. Different meeting rooms have different AV equipment in, so sometimes it can be something that can be done last minute. If not, then a budget needs to be considered, if that is something they're going to do. But actually, if it is recorded, then doing a recap webinar afterwards for every event that that people aren't possibly going to be able to come to, or where there's been a train strike but some of it perhaps has gone ahead, then sending that afterwards as part of the follow-up. So at least then, if you're going to do that anyway, then that's part and parcel of what that you've allowed in that time, because then you don't want to have to do extra work because of a train strike or whatever, if the event still goes ahead. So just a few things to consider. And it might sound obvious, but any speakers or long distance travellers, considering additional nights accommodation, and again having that in the budget should that need, and again keeping an eye on that availability. So I know it's all a bit of extra work just in case, but it will pay off if things like this happen, and it means you can still run ahead with the event. So looking forward, oh my goodness, Christmas parties, everybody's, if they've not got them booked, needs to be booked. Thursday is the peak date, and by all means, any venues that are on here, if you want to add any comments to top tips or what's going on with your parties at the moment, feel free to pop it into the chat as well. Thursday is the peak date. Monday is the most cost effective for obvious reasons. It's the quietest day, and sit down dinners are definitely back now as well. A lot of the time before, it was as people were coming out of COVID, it was more stand-up buffets perhaps to allow people to network and things, whereas now it's like, right, people want that a bit of a sit-down dinner with entertainment perhaps, and being able to have that chat around the table a bit more. Having said that, not all hotels and venues have still got all their packages or menus finalized. Majority have, but if a venue hasn't, then obviously I always recommend to corporates, or I ask myself, the venue, can you just send me whatever last year's is? So it could be somebody's booking a party in May for the following Christmas, so then it's like, right, can you send us what you had last year? That gives us an idea of menus and packages, and you think everybody does that, but not everybody does do that. So it might sound an obvious thing to some people, but that doesn't happen, and not everybody knows to perhaps ask that either. Obviously most peak dates are gone, especially for the larger numbers, so anybody who hasn't got their events booked, do think if there's flexibility with those dates, with Friday the 15th of December being the last key date, that really only gives 2 weeks in December, so therefore 2 Thursdays, 2 Wednesdays, etc. for those peak days. So if it hasn't been booked already, even if it's just for 20 people, get it booked. And off-the-shelf traditional packages are most desired. Again, going back to those sit-down dinners, that's quite nice to see that's back again. Bonuses are if they're themed. I've seen things like Great Gatsby, Winter Wonderland popping up quite a lot, and also for people to check the inclusions. So are they clear on where are they clear on what's included in that? So things like the crackers and the hats not always included in these packages, so it's just being clear whether they are or they're not. Mince pies and teas and coffee is not always included, which you kind of assume they would be. So little things like that can have an effect. If everyone at the party, got 100 people going, where's our cup of tea and coffee and mince pie, and it's like, oh, well, it was never mentioned, it was never on there. So it's something to definitely have that little checklist. Is everything included, and is it clear whether it is or not as well? This is I know this is like a lot of information on this one. This is a lovely email though from RSA House sent to me recently, and it was about all the availability that's left. So this is really informative. Now, I totally appreciate not every venue has time to do this, and not every booker wants to receive something like this. So this is just a personal opinion that I like this, because it's good for me to be aware of what availability there is out there. And so I have got a quick go-to. If somebody says to me, oh, I've got a inquiry for this, I'm like, well, actually, I happen to know this place has got the availability. This is approximately what it's going to cost. But I will need to recheck availability, because obviously this changes not just daily, but hourly, as we all know. But I liked it because it's got, this is your maximum capacities, this is your date, this is even lunchtime, these are even the hours. And at the bottom there, it's got, this is the minimum booking value for these. And availability is on a first come, first serve basis. So actually, that's another really good tip for Christmas. A lot of venues don't hold space over Christmas. It is first come, first serve, because so many people are booking at the same time. And so many people that are booking their Christmas party who don't normally book the rest of the year. So sometimes you've got people that are not used to how the whole process works. So perhaps you've got people then that are looking at 10 different venues. You obviously do not want to be holding 10 venues. No venue wants to be one of 10 being held, and no booker wants 10 venues chasing them like, you've been holding this, so can you give me an update? So it's something to bear in mind with Christmas. It's definitely first come, first serve, which does work. Once people have done site visits, that's when more venues are likely to hold, because they can see how serious that client really is. Even then, not all do. So do still have that clarity going along that process there. So I've started doing blogs again with support, Sarah, who's helping me write blogs. And so my last blog, I mentioned a couple of Christmas ideas, which was Richmond Hill Hotel for one just outside of London, and Kent House at Knightsbridge. So you're in London. And the reason these are something a little bit different. What I liked about Richmond Hill, it's actually a day delegate package combined with a festive treasure hunt. So you can see the prices there. Now that includes the room hire, so the whole basically day delegate, with a 2-course Christmas lunch and a glass of wine, plus a 2-hour treasure hunt. So this is what I'm talking about with the off-the-shelf packages. You've got, wow, that's a really good example that gets everybody together. That actually sounds quite fun, doing the treasure hunt, and everything's broken down, so that's just 2 hours here. The lunch, that will be a couple of hours. You could have then the morning meeting. I'm sure you could go back to the meeting room at the end of the day as well, perhaps to have that final 1 hour, or even half an hour, just get together before everybody goes off. Obviously somewhere like that, they've got accommodation as well, so then you could actually say to people, if you want to stay over, it depends on the budgets and things like that. But I think that was a really good something different, good option. Kent House, Knightsbridge, I've always liked what they've done. They do a different theme every single year. It is a country manor house, but in the centre of London. It's in Knightsbridge, so lovely access, really easy to get to, and it is again this off the package theme. Prices starting from 135 per person, and they could do up to 300 for standing reception, 200 for seated dinner, and they can personalize the themed entertainment. So they have a package where everything is done for you anyway, but then their little back book of entertainment, so comedians, musicians, everybody, you can book those as well, and just really personalize that whole evening with them. Or you've just got the off the package, and of course that is all the decorations, like fully decorated venue there. So that was, as I say, that was on a blog, and that's the kind of thing that I like to look out for as well. So that's sort of a few Christmas tips there. So just sort of going back about what we've just been doing over the last quarter as well. And if everyone felt like they were busy, like ridiculously busy in July, it was 1/3 busier for inquiries compared to January. And January is obviously pretty busy of everyone looking ahead for the year. So if you felt busy, yes, it was. But actually the same with August, although August slowed down with responses, obviously due to annual leave with all of us, most of us, I should say. But because inquiry levels were up, we were still working a pretty similar pace, but obviously it was all a bit slower just because of getting those decisions and making decisions along across the line. And of course, as we always know, we're now in the busiest quarter, which is why I really appreciate anybody attending the webinar this morning, because we've obviously got the events not just taking place, but also booking everything now between now and Christmas, as well as next year, which then brings us on to next year as well. So most venue strategies is about high rate over high occupancy. So that's obviously to do with cost of living and labour and energy, which is the main impact of that as well. But it's, you know, it is better for them to get the rate basically quite high, so that then they can afford all the staff that's required to give that level of service that's required, rather than stacking everyone in and then everyone's running around like a headless chicken, but not actually able to give the service. Of course, that means they won't get the repeat business. So it might seem that, if, you know, obviously rates are going up and up with you know, we all know what's going on at the moment, but it is so that then they can give that service, you know, those high service levels that we're all striving for. And because of that, staffing levels are quite good at the moment, and this is where it is quite positive at the moment, because we've all, you know, over the last 2 years, it's been such a rebuild. Most properties now, it is good, or they are fully staffed. Not everywhere is perfect, but it is so much better than it was. So that's, I think, is really positive. And because of that, speed and efficiency is up. So I am really finding that with turning inquiries around, really quick responses. And thank you to anybody that is able to give me a quick response. I do try to put timelines in. So response required either ASAP, or by next Friday, or by this Wednesday, or whatever. Because then that gives me that time to put my proposal together and pass that on to the client, and so then I've had time to check that through, and also chase up any information that has changed or that perhaps is missing, etc. But it's all very good, all very positive, which is lovely to be able to say now. So what is exciting as well is the further refurbishments and new openings that are happening. Lots have happened already, a lot happened over COVID, a lot's happened this year and happening as we speak, and therefore next year as well. So really positive time. There's a lot, and that's where those high rates, that is going back into the properties, which is really good. So let's get into the next slide. Oh yeah, and that's not just me talking about it. Conference News little article said the UK meetings and events industry has experienced a rise in the price per head by 14.7% in Q1 of 2023. So that is massive, and that is something to consider. So some people now are perhaps doing smaller events to have, if they've got the same budget, it's perhaps doing something a bit smaller, changing perhaps what's included in those. So again, you can bespoke your own DDR packages, perhaps take a tea and coffee break out, make it a shorter meeting, to then perhaps do it on a budget it in a different way as well. And a spokesman from the Business of Events said, this increase indicates that despite the challenges posed by the pandemic, the industry has been able to maintain its value proposition for attendees, which I absolutely love. So as I said earlier, it's about that level of service as well. So this is where, if anybody wants to take a snapshot of this is of all the exhibitions, the UK exhibitions. I concentrate on the UK exhibitions because I'm based in the UK, of course. I'm predominantly booking mainly UK, but I have got a slide later on overseas, and things are moving so quickly, and with so many, as I just mentioned, refurbishments and new venues opening, the exhibitions are a brilliant way to keep up to date, not just with the venues, but obviously everybody in the venues themselves. Most people know that I do love an exhibition, hence why I always put this on here. I will be at the BNC show. I'm also going to be at the CHS show in Birmingham, as I mentioned. There's a whole day they're running of, there's obviously the speakers, and then there's different rooms and different areas, and I will be in I think a separate room, they've said now, doing educational sessions. It'll be on new venues, so yes, any venues, then do let me know if you've got anything coming up or any changes, and also the refurbishments, if there's anything coming up there. But I'm also going to do an educational session, because it's for the educational sessions that I'm doing are for PAs and EAs. and therefore if there's any jargon that people want to break down, so when we'll talk about mice and DDRs and things that a lot of us are used to have been talking about over the years, I have found since coming out of COVID with new clients, perhaps new people that are into events, for that mice section, then it's explaining, sort of going back to basics almost, and explaining what some of this stuff actually means and how to make the most of it and how to get the best of it. So that's what I'll be doing there. And so I've listed all the others. So Mice Book I really recommend as well, which is at Convene in London. And people, please see the London Summer Show will be taking place at Ocean Diva in February, because obviously that's open. So that's that one. And I just wanted to reiterate about the Elizabeth line, because we kind of forget it sometimes that it has opened, that it gives so much more access as well. So I've even zoomed in on where you've got Liverpool Street, Farringdon, Paddington, some really key stations there, and how you can flip about. For example, the new Bowtree Hotel is opening at Bond Street, super close to Liverpool Street and Paddington, so you've got people flying in or going to the offices. It's all of that kind of stuff that we think about, isn't it? So I was just mentioning about overseas, then this is, I went to Malta literally the day after the last webinar last time, and I visited the Hilton Malta, the Hyatt Regency Malta and the Intercontinental Malta. It was as beautiful as you can see here. In fact, the two pictures on the right are pictures that I took, so these are actual live pictures. So much conference facilities. What I liked about the Hyatt Regency, it's intimate, it's perhaps for your small medium meetings. This is it actually, although it sort of looks like a cafe area, it's also a function room up on, you know, one of their higher floors, and outside of this room is a little pool, so you can have that for drinks receptions, you can have private dining here, and because you've got those windows you can have indoors and outdoors. The same with the Interconti, that's absolutely massive, one of its biggest venue on the island, hundreds, thousands even, that you can have for events there. So many different opportunities, and smaller event space as well, and that again, standing on the rooftop there, you can see the sea in the background, and that takes over 100 people for drinks receptions. There's a whole bar up there, so you can hire all of that out as well. With the Hilton, again, loads of there was like 3 different pool areas, you can hire some of that out. They've got new things opening with a new private area with their own little beach and things as well. They obviously all have indoor function space, but obviously in the UK we get quite excited about what you can do outside when the weather's nice as well, so that's why I've concentrated on that. You've also got a couple of new hotels, you've got more than a couple, but in particular Me Hotel and Odyssey Hotel opening there as well. So Malta's definitely out there and up and coming. Had obviously a fabulous time, took my daughter there with me, and we were able to do the site visits together. So big thank you to all those that helped me with those site visits. So then just looking at the time, London, this is basically what's happening this week, over the last couple of weeks. The Bowtree opens this Friday, the Peninsula opened yesterday, Giroux reopened last week. Cam and Hooper have got Giroux in Mayfair and 26 Leek Street. Leek Street are arches, and again that can do 1,200 standing, or you can just hire 1 or 2 of those arches, so you could have like 100 sit down, for example. 34 Bloomsbury is one most people won't know about. It is a townhouse, if you like, and they do a lovely, there's 2 floors, a few variations up to sort of 70 stand up in one of the floors, but actually one of the smaller rooms for anybody just wanting something very cost effective, for a meeting room up to 10 people with the TV screen, tea and coffee all included. And they've got this room from £450 for a sort of half day rate, £450 plus VAT, and that includes your teas and coffees all day. Great location as well. The Bowtree, as mentioned, opening on Friday. Absolutely amazing. Go and see it if you can. It's at Bond Street. You can literally see the station, Bond Street station, from the hotel, but because of all the triple glazing and everything, it is completely silent. So there's so much more I could say. I've got pictures of most of these venues of when I went to personally see them. Haven't been to personally see the Peninsula just yet, because that was just yesterday. Their meeting space isn't opening until November, so I'll be going to see that after then. So that's just literally like what's happening kind of this week. But then there's all these other things happening as well, so I just wanted to give a quick shout out as well. At St Park, you've got Sherwood Forest, their 73 Waterloo, which is at Waterloo. That's a self-contained exclusive use building. Champneys, lovely Alison at Mottram Hall, constantly keep me updated what's going on with Champneys and all the event space that you've got there at the different ones there. Down Hall have nearly finished their refurbishment. They've got some bedrooms and things to do, but their function space is so good. Their outside space, their potting shed is another little small room that you can use. So anything small, medium, large. Hyatt Regency opening in London. You've got Blackfriars that's opened, and then there's constantly there's more that I haven't even mentioned, like Uncommon on Liverpool Street. They've got a that's quite small, intimate. You could do drinks receptions there on their terrace, and they've got indoor and outdoor area. I think I just mentioned that's Liverpool Street. Canopy by Hilton. Tower as well. You've got the rooftop bar there. Again, there's over 100 people there. You've got outdoor area that when it's nice as well. So there's just so many things going on. I've been Nobu Shoreditch. That's although that did open, you know, pre-COVID, they've actually changed some of their areas. One of the things I'm going to do a blog on hotels where you can work from their space. So like me, I haven't got a base, but my clients in London, so I like to go in and work from a place somewhere. Nobu Shoreditch is a really good example of that. They've changed their lounge area, and it's now it's got like a patisserie area, so you can have not just teas and coffees, but your croissants, and you've also got charging points everywhere as well. And in fact, Canopy by Hilton, they've got that as well on their ground floor. So more hotels now are encouraging people to use those lounges to what they know people are doing it anyway, so they're embracing it. And I want to do a blog on that to sort of recommend ones where it's open and they want people to come and do that, which is great. So just kind of finishing off, I don't want to reiterate what I've already said, but because everything is obviously so busy now, availability is getting tighter and tighter. Having said that, some people have had gaps over the summer for November, and a couple of venues have sort of been worrying a little bit about October, November, but there are so many people that are now back and are now doing those last minute inquiries, and I found this myself. I've got lots I'm working on for those months, whereas we're still quite used to the old days where we're going, we're looking at the first quarter now. So although that is happening as well, it's all kind of full steam ahead. This is the busiest Christmas now since COVID, which is fantastic. People are celebrating getting out again, and just some useful dates I often put up there. And as I just mentioned about the first quarter, so yeah, if anybody can start, if they haven't already, I have got stuff booked in for next year. In fact, I've got one client that's given me monthly events all the way to December next year. So people are now looking that far ahead, which is fantastic. And which is great for the venues, because then they've got their base business, and they can offer those great rates with the best rooms for those early birds. So I always recommend that when you can. But also you can predict those numbers and therefore predict those budgets if you are an event buyer. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, which changes when dates are actually going to happen, when events are actually going to happen, is often speakers availability. So to be honest, it is better to get the speakers availability first and then come to me for can you find a venue for this date? We've got the speaker, it's a fixed date. It makes everything so much easier with the venues, myself and the buyer, because then this is what you're looking at for these dates, and then you've got that the speaker locked in that you want. So that would be super helpful. And yeah, I've already mentioned 2023 has been extremely busy. 2024 is going to be busier, as obviously anything that's every year is obviously if that's going to happen again, it's just building up on all of that. And there are still new companies that set up during COVID that are still just getting together for the first, second, third time. And all of that's built up because so many people work hybrid now. So that for the next year or two is going to make us all very, very busy. And just to reiterate again, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, we know this now, but it's nice that we have a pattern now. It's nice that I am repeating myself in some ways, because we aren't dealing with the ever quick movement and changes that we've had over the last few years. So just closing up, this is now all on my website. Website's been updated, constantly being updated. Anybody that does want to do any venue finding through me, this is how it works. And a lot of people do ask me how it works. So this is why I've put it up on the website and actually tidied it up now on here. Obviously have a Zoom call with the client first of all, and we talk about the brief. And this sends me your brief if anybody wants a quick checklist. Some people like that I send them the checklist. Obviously use this budget I've put at the top because it's the most important. The venues will love me for saying this, but if we have a budget, we can all work with that and get the best we can with that budget as well. This is all on the website, so I'm just going to skim through this about the process. And then after the event, I get the invoice from the venue, and that's when I get the commission. It's all on the website, so it's all very clear what happens there. So coming to the end now, I think I've just about done it. 10 o'clock, yeah, just gone 10 here. So any questions, please do ask, put it in the chat. I hope it's been useful for everybody. Just to let people know, I'm running the Royal Parks Half Marathon on the 8th of October. I will send a little sponsor link out on that when I do the follow-up. Everybody will be getting this afterwards. Let's stop sharing, actually. And you've got the upcoming webinar dates as well. So there we go, stop sharing. So I will be sending, oh, look at that, bang on 10. So I will be sending this on afterwards to everybody that's registered. As I mentioned to you, if you couldn't have made it and you're watching this on a replay, hello, thanks very much. This does go out to everybody. And any pictures that you want for any of those properties that I mentioned, if anybody wants to set up a Zoom to go through any of those venues that I've mentioned, there's so much happening now, which is so exciting. And it's just a matter of going out and trying to see it all and have all of the latest offerings on my radar now, so that then I can communicate this out to everybody as well. If anybody took any pictures, do send any to me. I can use them for social media as well, and I do appreciate it. If you want to share anything on social media, please do. Another packed session, I appreciate, and a lot of it was about venues and destinations this time. So if there's anything anybody wants to see on a further webinar, or if there's something you've seen before that you want me to bring back, then do let me know. So I shall say farewell. I shall finish end the webinar now. Big thank you. Oh yeah, massive, yeah, sorry, Mike's just mentioned, Lisa, sorry, has just mentioned the Unique Venues of London. I am going to be at their meeting in on the 25th of September on the panel. Really looking forward to that, so I can catch up with so many venues all in one place there as well, and for us all to chat about what's going on in the industry. So thanks, Lisa, for just mentioning that there. Right, I will say goodbye now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you signing up and being here, and I'll send this on by the end of the day. Take care. Thanks very much. Bye.